Hi guys, this is the advisor and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a letter from a lady. It's concerning some issues that she have regarding her relationship with a man and some things that concerns men in general, which I think both genders, male and female, would find extremely interesting. Extremely interesting. I'll just go straight into the letter. It's like this. Dear Xavier, my current boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years now, and we're planning to get married soon. I love my fiancé, but he has a problem. The problem I'm having is that I'm very fastidious about personal hygiene. I have this strange reservation about having sex with an uncircumcised man without using a condom. I hate condom use and would much prefer not having to use it. But under the circumstances, I will tolerate protective sex pending his having a circumcision. My fiancé is very understanding of my reservations, and just to please me, he has been to the doctor and received a totally clean bill of health. But this is just not good enough to make me feel comfortable enough to go bareback. We are planning to get married in June of 2023 on condition that he does get circumcised. He really wants to do it to please me, but he is very concerned about the procedure and its aftermath. He tells me of cases he heard where persons have bled to death after the operation. Because of that, I have decided to compromise as long as he is able to fully retract the foreskin to expose the head. Subsequently, he has made several attempts at pulling it back, but it is not budging. Now we have resorted again to doing the operation. But as the day gets closer, he is very jittery and irritable. I really don't want to put him through this if I don't really have to. So tell me, medically speaking, what I want to know is being circumcised really that important in terms of hygiene? In other words, are there really any greater risk to having sex with an uncircumcised man as against one who is? Or am I a crazy person who needs psychiatric help? Regards. Please publish quickly because we may have a wedding to plan and organize. And she signed Nora S. and she says North America. I don't know whether it's a US state or a Canadian province, but it's from North America. Now, my response here is this. I'll go with your last question first. The question is, are there really any greater danger to having sex with an uncircumcised man as against one who is? The answer is yes. Definitely yes. Medically speaking, yes. And here's the reason why. Men who are uncircumcised, whose foreskin cannot be pulled back, pose a problem. If it's a case where his foreskin can go back, then it wouldn't be a problem. But for one who can't, then the woman is taking a risk. In fact, this man is taking a risk with his own health. Here's why. You see, the foreskin is actually, as it says, skin. It is skin. And the thing with skin is that skin sheds. Your skin is going to shed on a daily basis. You lose flakes of skin because the outer layer of the skin, the epidermis, is actually flakes off minutely, hourly, daily. So the foreskin, both the outer section and the inner section underneath, is actually skin. And being skin, it flakes off. It sheds. Now, when it's locked underneath inside of the foreskin and it sheds, it has nowhere to go. So what it do, the shed skin there accumulates. And when it accumulates over time, it becomes known as something we call smegma. S-M-E-G-M-A. Now, once it accumulates under there, what happens also is that it gathers bacteria and all kind of microorganism gathers in that smegma because it's warm and it's wet, and bacteria and all kind of germs and microorganism lives in dark, wet, warm places, and it's perfect for breeding germs. So once the foreskin cannot be pulled back, it becomes a reservoir for germs. Yes. So yes, and the thing is here's the problem. Anything that goes under there, any form of microorganism that goes under there, it stays unless washed away. One of the dangers of this, for example, is, for example, suppose the woman has a fungal infection, because women normally has that in their own bodies, and sometimes fungal infection like yeast or so on can develop in a woman's body naturally. Now, say she's with a man who is uncircumcised, whose penis cannot be retracted. What will happen is that she might get the fungus naturally in her body, and then when she gets some sort of a suppository and cures it, he can reinfect her, because once he has sex with her, when she had the fungal infection, the fungus is going to come off, lives underneath his foreskin, and can go live right in the smegma, which is underneath his foreskin, since he doesn't get washed. So yes, and the thing is, because of that, he can reinfect her and keep reinfecting her, because he has that little place that gathers bacteria and keeps it. So yes, having sex with an uncircumcised man whose foreskin cannot be pulled back poses a greater danger to the woman than one who is circumcised. Okay, now let's deal with this circumcised man. The good thing about a circumcised man is that he has nowhere to keep, it's always in contact with air, fresh air. So there's no wetness there. There's no wet area. There's nowhere that shed skin can accumulate. So he will never be able to produce smegma. And therefore, he is much, much cleaner. Much cleaner. So he's the most hygienic state to be in. Now, but there's one drawback to his being circumcised. A man who is circumcised loses a lot of the pleasure of having sex. Reason being, once you get circumcised, you know that the glands of the penis, that's the head, it has millions upon millions of nerve endings. And these nerve endings aid in sexual pleasure. Now, once you get circumcised, and that glands, or penis head as we call it, I'd refer it here on as the glands. What it does, GLANS, what it does is that it gets hit against your leg, against your skin, against your clothes, against your underwear and all of that, and exposed to air. Over time, it gets desensitized. And once it gets desensitized, the man gain a whole lot less pleasure, because the nerve endings dies. And once these nerve endings die from the gland start hitting about, rubbing up against his underwear, rubbing against his leg, rubbing against anything it's against its clothes, eventually it becomes so desensitized that he doesn't get much pleasure from thrusting. He gets most of his pleasure now from just ejaculation itself, but not from actual stimulating of the glands. So the drawback is that men who are circumcised cannot enjoy sexual pleasure as great as a man who is uncircumcised. Now, here's the thing. So in one case, he gets less pleasure. In the other case, he has more pleasure, but it's a danger both to himself and his woman. Now, I am glad that you have decided to make a compromise and decide to say, well, that once the foreskin can be retracted, you will go ahead with the marriage and you will have unprotected sex. That's fine. Okay. So do that. Here's the reason why. Once the penis can turn over, you have the best of both worlds. It can be pulled back and it can be washed thoroughly, which of course it's supposed to be washed twice a day. Say in the morning before you leave for work and the evening when you get back in. So normally at least once a day, but preferably twice. Pulled back each time you take a shower, which is morning and evening. Hopefully, everybody showers that often, and it's washed. Now it will be as clean and as hygienic as a circumcised organ. It will be just as clean and just as hygienic because it can turn over and no dead skin cells can accumulate underneath or around the glands, and no bacteria can settle there because it can be kept dry. And the good thing about it is that the best of both worlds is that he is just as clean as an uncircumcised man. That's one. And two, he maintained the sensitivity of to have sex and enjoy the ultimate pleasure because the foreskin is always there protecting the glands from being exposed to being knocked about and be rubbed against his underwear and rubbed against his leg and anything else. So it's protected, and then it's just like an uncircumcised, like being uncircumcised. But here's the other issue you have, and the other issue you have now is that since his foreskin, he tried pushing his foreskin back, pulling his foreskin back, and it can't go. Well, he's doing this wrong. Here is what, you see, the thing, as humans, we have different thickness. The foreskin has different thickness. So and different length. You can have some foreskin which are up to 1.5 protrude 1.5 beyond the tip of the penis. Some only 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. Some, and the skin is the skin is very thin. Some of the skin is extremely thick. So how long it takes will differ from individual to individual, but it takes sometime between 14 days and 3 months, somewhere between that. Depends on, as I say, the length and the thickness of the foreskin. Now, here's what you do. He's doing something wrong and he may hurt himself. So tell him that's not how it's done. I want you to let him listen to this video and see how it's done. What he's supposed to do is to pull back every time, several times a day, every time he is going to have a shower or to go to take a pee. What he's supposed to be is pull it back slightly. Pull it back hard enough that it becomes uncomfortable, not painful, to that point where it is uncomfortable. And, he knows that, okay, this is where to stop. And each time, so if he pee 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, each time, just pull it back slightly till it becomes uncomfortable and hold it there for maybe 2 or 3 seconds. Just once, he has to do it each time. Now, over time, what he's going to find is that it goes back further and further and further. And over the next few days, remember, it is skin, and skin is the most malleable organ in the human body. It can change its shape. It can grow new cells on the outside to accommodate any length of stretching or anything. Yeah, it can accommodate it. So it will go back. It will go back. It's just that we don't know. Depends on the individual how long it will take. So once you keep pulling it back like that, several times a day, and even sometimes you can just do it morning and evening when you have your shower. And once you pull back, you will find that over the next series of days, you see it goes back further and further. Do not pull too hard to the point where you break your skin. That if you break your skin, that's an injury. You're going to have to wait another 2 weeks before starting over again. Yeah? And you'll find that over time, it goes back more and more and more and more until the the head of the penis is exposed. And at that point, you keep going for whatever time, more weeks. Just be patient, don't force it, and eventually, voila, it's done. Yeah? So don't do it and hurt yourself. But the point about it, it will work. So now that you know it can work and will work, I want you to just go ahead now and do it that way and get it done. Another thing I need to address again, and you might have heard the rumor, but it is not just a rumor, it's the truth. Men have died from, adult men have died from going through the operation and being circumcised as a man. It won't happen as a child, and here is why it won't happen when you're a child. As a child, the male child's foreskin has very little nerve endings, one, and the nerve endings in the foreskin is very underdeveloped, one, and there are virtually no blood vessels there, so it hardly even bleeds. That's why when you circumcise a baby of a few weeks or months old, it hardly even bleeds because there are very little blood vessels running through the foreskin, and the nerves there are just underdeveloped. So you'll find that he might not even cry. It has happened, and I mean, so that's it. But with a full-grown adult, the blood vessels are extremely well developed, and sometimes you have really arteries and capillaries, not major arteries or major capillaries or veins, but enough that blood is pumping through it at the same rate as it's pumping through your fingers and other sections of your body. And being that, therefore, when you do that, when you cut it as an adult, the nerve endings are very, very well developed at that stage too. So with the nerve endings very developed, it hurts tremendously. One, it hurts tremendously. And remember that this is an area where you cannot really inject a person to put to deaden the skin, because you can't inject anything in the penis because it will end up leading to maybe malfunctioning of the sexual organ. So these are done, so local anesthetic, so it's best even to put the person to sleep. Now, over the weeks of recuperating, it's hard to stop the blood because it's hard to really be able to put a bandage there. It's not easy getting a bandage there as an adult. It's difficult because the penis will be in various stages of fluctuate of erection and semi-erection and flaccidity and all of that. So putting something on there is not like a finger where a finger remains a finger, same size, same length, same. You only have to think about the flexing. The penis works differently. So as an adult, it's an extremely complicated operation, and it will not work. And as I said, closing the blood vessels on the organ is extremely difficult too. And yes, people have bled, and there are few cases of death arising. I don't think in like a first world country like the US, but in other countries where medical facilities are not as highly developed and the expertise is not there, yes, it can lead for a person either bleeding to death or die from shock or something. So don't do it even in a first world country. It's not good for an adult to do. So there you go. And go through with the thing that I tell you. It costs virtually nothing, and you will be free, and you and your lady should be very happy from this point on. And so I just want to say thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you further how it went, and enjoy your happy married life. Okay? Now, guys, please give us a like, share, and leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. I see you later in my next video. Thanks for listening.